Not all at once.
That's great, man.
Right, let's go with Luke back there
How do
first.
you guys assemble exactly? Because I mean, that's a lot of different styles combined and going together to fuse this amazing sound. Because literally, like, I just closed my eyes and I was like, nice. It's just great.
Well, that's one of the things that makes the Chicago sound really unique, because it's a really great place to get exposure to a lot of different styles of music. One of the reasons is because there are a lot of ethnic neighborhoods. So you get to go to Greektown and you can hear authentic Greek music. You can go and hear Brazilian music in different places. You can hear, there's just all kind of jam sessions and stuff. And a lot of us get out to a lot of different sessions. So, and then Dave is just one of those special cats that really wants to perfect his sound on guitar and be available to play any style. So he has a lot of different projects. I wish you would talk about Algernon.
Well, yeah, I mean, I would second that notion that Chicago is a great place to get exposed to a lot of different styles and also have opportunities to play a lot of different styles. I also lived in New York for many years, and it's easier for me in Chicago to spread my wings a little bit more because there's just less musicians to gigs ratio. You know, there's just way too many musicians in New York, so you kind of have to specialize in like one very specific thing and be like really good at that. But Chicago allows you to, as I said, get your feet in different areas, and that naturally, as you expose yourself to these styles and learn the history of them, they naturally start to coalesce in your own musical vision, so that when you play music, it's a combination of all those things, hopefully, and that creates your own personal voice.
Good answers. Casey?
Are there any particular places, venues that inspired you in Chicago? Places where you've heard music that inspires you?
My favorite place in the world is still the Green Mill.
Yeah, great poetry spot too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of history there. Yeah, I mean, Sam, I'm sure you have stuff to say about that as well.
I mean, the Green Mill is up there on my list. I mean, I go there as often as I can.
There's a lot of places that are closed too.
The Velvet Lounge was kind of like. Has anybody ever heard of Minton's Playhouse? Okay, so there was this place in New York in the 50s or whatever that was like the bebop hang for some really tremendous talent. The Velvet Lounge was kind of like that for the musicians in Chicago. It was an underground spot that was owned and operated by Fred Anderson, who was a very prolific composer in avant-garde playing, and he influenced a lot of musicians. We just recently commemorated a park to Fred Anderson. He passed away, and he had so much respect and love from the community that they gave him a park. I mean, for a jazz musician to get a park, and you guys, how many people in here have heard of Fred Anderson?
Right.
Okay, nobody in here has heard of Fred Anderson. This is not like Ornette Coleman or Miles Davis or somebody like that. This is a stalwart Chicago underground giant. And most people don't know who he is. But for us, you know, he gave me my first professional gig with my own band as a band leader at his club. If he didn't own the club, then I might not have even had that break, you know. So, and he supported a lot of artists on the scene to help them get their start, to have a place to get a review. But anyway, places like the Velvet Lounge, the Green Mill, you know, the Jazz Showcase, there are just a lot of Chicago. Anybody get to Chicago, just pick up a reader and just scan through the style of music you want to hear, because there's tons of great places in Chicago.
Nick?
Clement.
I just wanted to ask you about the by the way, awesome. Just to ask you about the library thing. Are you going to be going around the country to different libraries, or how is that going to
The vision was to do it regionally first.
I see.
All of us are like tremendously busy working
Yeah,
in like
right.
a lot of different projects to keep money coming in, to keep our lifestyles going.
Right.
And so I can't commit them to like every week, but I'm trying to do it at least once a month over the course of the year. And the target goal to raise is $4,300. There's been 200 committed to it, from Facebook friends. I haven't like done the beg everybody yet in the 5,000 friends thing. Partly because I don't want to force it, and partly because this is not it's not like it's an emergency for me to get all the money for us to do it. We're going to do it anyway. It's just that I'd like to be able to make sure that the band has some support, and it's not just coming out of my own pocket all the time, because my wife is going to get upset. But it's something that I think is so important that I'm willing to risk putting our family on the line and getting these guys to work on specific music so that the public can get access to it. Because if we don't make these types of efforts, then,
It's such a unique idea. That is amazing. I think it's great. That you've been starting.
I want to see your name on the donation. No, thank you very much.
Alex?
Parnisha, what happened with Oprah?
It got, the book was released in April. And we actually kicked it off in the Twin Cities, which is where the publisher is located. And within a few weeks, Oprah had named it one of her 12 books to savor for National Poetry Month. So, it's the power of O, it's still... But it was one of those things, because I work in publishing, and I'm always trying to stay ahead of the game and know everything that's going on. I did not know about this. And my publisher, I had been in meetings all day. And I'd come out of the meetings and I turned my phone on, and it was just blowing up, and I'm just like, what's going on? And they're like, Oprah!
Oprah's going on!
So it was a great thing to start the book off, to have that to go with it. So thank you.
Right on.
How recently was it released?
It just released in April.
It just dropped.
Just
so
dropped.
like,
It's brand new.
yeah.
It's a brand new baby. Still crying.
that's a good. Oprah got in on the ground floor of that one. Jenny?
What? It's okay to get two money for two different people?
Not okay. No, just go ahead.
I have a question for you and you. First you, with the gong, when I went to Unitarian Universal Church, that gong was used to make everybody pay attention, but is there a special meaning for the gong for you or in Chinese tradition?
It's a Tibetan singing bowl, and so you can play either by hitting it like a mallet, or you can play the rim of it, which makes a very sort of haunting sound. And a lot of people use it in meditational practice, and so sometimes I like it just as a way to sort of clean the air a little bit, talk a little less between palms. And I think the other thing is, I like how the sound decays and dies away, and it helps to sort of just let the room breathe a little bit. Rather than sort of racing off to the next palm,
Yeah. And you, I know you play with the violin, yeah?
Yes.
Have you heard of Laurie Anderson?
Yeah.
She plays electric violin too.
Okay.
She's
She was
amazing.
married to Lou Reed for a while, but then he died.
I need to look her up.
She's fantastic, yeah.
Yay.
Dave will hook you up on the ride home.
I got you.
Kelsey?
Actually, I have a letter about this. This is awesome group
Yeah.
performers, but I have one for Tim. Having 9 books and a bajillion awards. To me as a writer, and I know there are other writers in the room too, that to me just says like crazy submission tactics. Do you have a secret, or are you just like...
come talk to me after, I'll tell you all.
And then another question for Carnisha. It's a little selfish question. I'm going to be moving to Chicago this fall, and it's really not that far away. It's like a little over an hour.
Why are you moving to Chicago?
Because I'm starting the poetry MFA program in Columbia. So, what, I guess like the best way to ask this question is like, what about Chicago? Has anything about Chicago like shaped you as a writer? What are your influences particular to the city? And like, what should I be doing? Like, what's the, I don't know, just your thoughts on that.
It's a great question. You know, it took me a while to kind of be in love with my home because I was always searching for someplace else. I felt that that's the thing to do when you're young and confused and whatever. And, you know, I had actually established more of an artist base in New York and actually in Louisville, Kentucky, where I did my MFA. And then within the last, I would say 5-6 years, I just kind of fell in love with what it meant to be from the Midwest, this very flat but fertile ground. And once I started to realize the artists that were specifically in Chicago, I realized what New York was lacking, what all these other cities that everybody tries to go to, what it didn't have on Chicago. And it's just, I would say from an artist standpoint, Chicago is going through an incredible renaissance of just music and art and poetry and dance, and there's a lot of collaboration that's happening between the artists that at least I see. So you'll be in good hands when you come there. You should definitely talk to Matthew Shinoda, who's an Egyptian poet and head of the creative writing program at Columbia. He's one of my authors. We'll get you straight, don't worry. But it's an amazing scene, and you don't have to fight as much as you would other places. And publishing, I mean, Chicago's become one of the capitals of publishing in this country now. So there is a lot to do, and there's a lot to immerse yourself in, and especially if you want to be a multi-genre artist, Chicago's, it's pretty great. So.
I mean, it's no Racine, but it's okay. It's all right. Yes.
Consider this the wonderful cousin of
The one
So, but you know, it's like I wouldn't necessarily have known if I hadn't lived in Chicago about what surrounds and what is connected. And so this is just another way. It's Midwest.
I should add, it's rare to find this audience in Chicago. I talked to a lot of friends who've been reading in the Midwest, and you guys, this community, it's a rarity in a big city, so.
I try to tell them all that, but nobody listens to their daddy, so, you know. Tim?
For him, your poetry was very deep and stirring and thought-provoking, and some of your subject matter was, you know, kind of out there. I'm wondering if you have ever caught any like flack or hostility or anything just purely from the subject matter of your poetry.
Well, at some point in my reading, a couple people walked out, and that's always good. I mean, they probably just had to go to the bathroom or like take an important call. When you read at Barnes & Noble, sometimes they have a little children's section. That causes some problems. And also, a lot of times if you read something that's going to be broadcast, right, the 7 words are still like they're Bolton, and I always substitute them, and it's kind of tricky sometimes. But it's always a consideration. Like today, I was sitting across the street having a cigar, which I normally don't do, but it just was such a nice day. And I was watching everyone walk in, and from that, I was trying to figure out what to read. So I actually didn't figure out what I was going to read until everyone had walked in. And part of those calculations is, how much cock can this room handle? So I do think about it.
We ask ourselves that question
Right, that kind of loosened things up a little bit for me. And I thought, okay, you know, bring the big guy.
Was there one more question out there, Dottie?
You said you had questions about Racine. Would you like to turn it around and ask us questions about Racine?
I would. So I drove down West Boulevard, right towards Durant, and saw that neighborhood. I drove along the lake on Wisconsin and Maine. That's like a totally different scene, right? And then I also, like, I couldn't figure out, it feels like Mount Pleasant is like this giant creature that is swallowed Racine, because I'd go that way and there's Mount Pleasant, I'd go this way and there's Mount Pleasant. And after a while, I just gave up, and I just thought Mount Pleasant must be really big, but the population is so much smaller than Racine. I got confused. But I was just, I mean, I'm going to bring it up because it's just, you know, it's so of the moment, and I'm just wondering particularly about race relations in Racine, and also just, you know, the neighborhoods and what it's like, because
It's diverse, right? It looks very
it's really diverse. I mean, it's almost like this patchwork quilt. And I was just wondering also questions about poverty and also the history of the last 100 years, like what kind of micro migrations. Well, I mean, just basic questions like that.
I would say that.
We have 30 seconds.
Yeah, I would say this is such an in-depth question that I want to get anyone else who has questions for the performers. So think about what Tim just said, and if you have, you know, insightful comments about that, let's talk to Tim. Some of us will be going to dinner afterwards, and I think some of us probably have lots to say about that. But so why don't, in case there are any others, it seemed like there was at least one more hand up I saw. Sovereign?
I wanted to ask Parnisha, what got you started in writing, and like what age did you kind of start?
Oh, that's a question. You know, it was one of those things where I was always reading something, not necessarily writing something. I didn't really actually start writing until I hit college, and it was kind of this, it was kind of a turn of events of meeting Gwendolyn Brooks.
Right, which New York cannot claim.
Right. I had basically only 2 poems to my name when I was 19, and she somehow found those 2 poems, asked to meet with me. We sat down for a couple of hours. She went over those 2 poems, gave me all these books, gave me her number, gave me her address, and said, let's write together. And I was still in that phase of, I don't think I'm going to be a writer. And 6 months later, she passed away. About a year after that, I found a note that she had written on one of my poems that said, hold on. And I said, okay, we're going to do this. So that's where the poetry started, and the poetry led to a career in publishing, and then publishing led to me doing all these other things and traveling all over the world, and then that led to the first book.
Nice.
19.
I mean, we may have to give it up to the ancestors. I mean, I was blown away when you said, Milt Jackson, you can do it. I mean, that's it, hold on. It's just 5 words, oh no, 6, I can't count. 4 for you, you can do it, and hold on.
Yeah.
And that's it, right? And now we're like custodians, and they're the young.
Yeah.
You can do it, hold on. I mean, that's how it works.
Yeah. She was everything, so I owe it to her.
So that means also that it's important to have mentors, and that the mentors are the connectors. And so if you have this yearning to do some form of art, then you seek out the people that you look up to, and don't let them rest until they talk to you. And if they're jerks, then find someone else. You know, because if we don't take active responsibility for finding ways to keep the arts going, then it's just gonna die. Because it's, you know, it has to be passed down from one artist to another. That's the way the most powerful work gets out, I think.
Right.
I think another thing to add really quickly, if I may, about like becoming an artist as an adult and maybe words of advice that anybody could offer about that is that I would say number one on my own list that I'm continually learning as I move along my own life, my own career, is to always remember to be completely fearless, always. And that's a really it's easier to say than to do. But of course, everybody struggles with that to a greater or lesser extent. But it is an illusion, and if we realize that and we're like, okay, I can get beyond this and have courage and put myself out there and be honest with me while I'm putting myself out there, that's fearlessness, and that is how you will succeed. And when I say success, it's a very personal thing. It's not like how much money you make or how many books you sell or awards you get. It's about self-growth and self-loving and being fearless, you know? And that's very liberating once you like step into that world.
Might be a good note to end on. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna buy a bunch of CDs, and we're gonna buy a bunch of books, and then we're gonna go crazy listening to them and reading them, and our lives are going to be like a billion times better for it. So I want to thank you guys again so much all for coming out.